In your different businesses, you've had your dealings with various competitors. Some say, the steeper the climb, the sharper the knives. Like, what's your thought on competition?
So, one, I love this quote. I think the first time I heard it was from Rick Warren as a pastor. He said, anger is like drinking poison and hoping the other person dies. And so it's just like, it doesn't serve you. So many times, I think many of us have had these experiences where you just obsess about being angry at someone and how could they, how dare they? And most of anger comes from ego. Go back to the humility thing, which is like, you fundamentally think you deserve better, right? If you don't think you deserve anything, then a lot of times it can diffuse a lot of the situations because you're like, well, in 500 million years, this probably won't matter. And if you scale out wide enough, the earth doesn't look like anything but a speck of dust, or even you can't even see it. And so it just gives a little bit of perspective on like, how much does this really matter? From a competition perspective, there's an obsession with small business owners around competition. And I would say that like, most small business owners look at other small business owners and see them as competition, but like, they are not competition. Usually both people just have shitty products, which is why they have small businesses. And so I would say obsess over your customers, not your competition. The competition takes care of itself. And as an aside, it's interesting because again, this is kind of a more of a small business owner perspective, but like the private equity and the investment world, if they see 3 companies that serve a similar avatar, they just buy all 3 and combine them. And so like, as much as you might have a blood feud with this person, like the person who's a level up from you just sees it as 3 different cultures that serve the same avatar with slight differences. And then they merge them into a much bigger company that has, obviously it doesn't always go that way. There's cultural differences, blah, 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 et cetera. But I think just seeing it like that, I've seen so many competitors who wanted to kill each other. And even in the gym launch world, there was a guy who was, he considered himself to be a competitor of ours. And I reached out to him and he thought that I had some like ill intent, and like now we're decent friends. And he's like, I always hated you. And I was like, I didn't think about you. Well, it's these one way, like obsessing over things that are happening only in the entrepreneur's mind. And I think that is the biggest cost of competition, is the obsession over what everyone else is doing, rather than taking that same obsession and applying it to your customers. And that would make you more money.
Yeah. I've heard you say, like, I know a lot of this is a mental game, people thinking about, well, what's someone going to think of me? What are they going to think of my decisions, my choices? If I do this, if I go left, if I go right. And I think you said something along the lines of, one day you're going to pass, it's there's going to be your funeral. And then there's going to be people who don't make it just because something came up that day.
Yeah. There'll be people who want to eat, people who are arguing over who gets what. Most of the people that you met your entire life aren't going to make it. And so like, and I mean, it's kind of like, I made this tweet and it went really viral, but the Queen of England died, I think like 8 or 9 months ago now. She amassed more wealth than 99.99% of the population. She was a monarch for 70 years, which has to be close to a record. She did it as a female, which is even more amazing, from the times that she came in to power and whatnot. And whoever's listening to this probably hasn't thought about the Queen of England. And she was, one of the all-time goats of just like success, if you want to define it that way. We're so self-centered that we assume that everyone's going to cry when we die, but most of us won't even be remembered for 6 months. And so I think we have all this irrational fear around taking bigger swings, doing the things that we want to do, making whatever dreams we have real, or at least giving it a shot. We play these videotapes in our minds of these future scenarios where people who aren't thinking about us are saying things that they're not even thinking because they don't care about you and they think about themselves. And so it's like, no one's thinking about you. And I think getting over yourself is a really good way to be able to have more personal freedom in the choices we make and take on big risks.